Hey, this is Quinn James for Word Games with Ludacris, and I am playing rjud, who, judging by their profile pic, is a dog. I do not have a bingo, I'm pretty sure. The equity play here would be toe. Let's see if it'll let me actually type. I don't know if I want to do that. Bunch of hooks, D, S, Y. Tons of, you give them floaters. It's not very good defensively. But I'm not usually the type of player who, will just like exchange 3 instead. So I feel like that gives your opponent more of a line as to exactly what you want to do. Et is another option. It's a little bit better defensively. The bingos are not going to score as much. You're more likely to have response bingos because of counterplay, and on the other hand, you're keeping that extra O, which doesn't drag the rack down too much, but still is not exactly ideal. There's Netty, which I don't really like. Tonite, which is slightly better, but I still don't really like it. I don't want to completely ruin the rack. Wonder if I have like a 5-tile play that blows 3 vowels. I'm not seeing one. I think I'm going to play et. I'm looking at toe, and I just like, wherever I place it, I don't like what it does. It's impossible to avoid putting a vowel next to a double letter score, and all the other things that I explained. I just don't like the feel of the play. I guess there's also, there's also toe, T-O. This is a much better leave, actually. This is much better leave, better defensively, doesn't take the back hooks. Okay, yeah, this is better. I'm going with this. I don't really think there's likely to be anything better than this. Okay, so this makes some 8s. Neodnik with a C. I think there's some other stuff. Maybe not. Neotinia through an A or an I, but I'm not going to get that. I'm not going to get anything, I don't think. Should really go ahead and minimize the broadcast. It's distracting me a little bit. Okay, I feel a little better now. A little coffee. So again, the equity play here, dropping 1 somewhere. I'm not seeing a great place to do it. Or Eon, this is an okay place to do it. Vim, after Vim, I'm thinking my opponent probably doesn't have great tiles. If they had great tiles, now first of all, Vim would have been unlikely to be the best play from the rack, because this isn't like all that good defensively. Vom is a little better defensively. They probably had 2 eyes, for example, so I don't have to be that afraid of being a little bit open. I'm not quite sure how open, though. Vimin is interesting because it scores a little bit, which is tough to do on this board, and doesn't really... Eon kind of gives really easy openings. Like with this D, you can kind of just play there for 30 or whatever. Or, if my opponent's drawn into a bingo, which I don't think they had a bingo a near bingo rack last turn, but it's certainly possible that if I give them a bunch of lanes, a bunch of options, that it could turn into a bingo rack, and I don't really want to do that. Yeah, Vimin, is nicely cagey. I like to make moves like that. Emotion is another one that I kind of looked at. That kind of throws it open the board, and but it's mostly in ways that are beneficial for me, keeping EN. I'd probably do it if not for the backhook, demotion, and remotion. I think I'm going to play Vimin. Okay, I might be bingoing. I have reorient and orienter. Is this good? I don't think so. I do want to... This is friendly enough for nines that I do want to spend a little bit of time looking for them. So yeah, this is so many... There's so many possible eights that I don't even want to, list all of them. Anterior, interior, tricorn, that stuff. I'm pretty sure Vimin takes an S. I know for a fact that Vimin is good. I'm maybe 80% sure Vimin takes an S, but with 5-point penalty, and since it would be so helpful to me if this came off, I'm just going to check it. And it's no good. Okay, that's great for me for the most part, but it does mean I have to spend a little bit of time seeing if I can limit my opponent's bingo rack. I'm probably not going to stop them from bingoing completely. This just bingos too many places, but often with that exact same word, Pioneers goes here, for example, or Sinope here, Pioneers here, but well, unfortunately though, I might, or fortunately, depending on how you feel about clock usage, I might not have any options. The only thing, the only really things I see are orienter and reorient. What am I giving my opponent back? I think double-doubles in both situations. No triple-triples, though. I'm just going to make sure, I don't have a ton. Yeah, this is Ripiano's, which I think is good. Though I'm not 100% sure it is. And this, however, gives... Does this give one back? I don't really mind using clock time when I know my opponent's rack. That's one of the most useful times in the game, because that can be a huge swing if you can limit what your opponent can do. Reorient is nice because it takes away some of the safer bingos like Peonies here, or Synapy here, which doesn't take a back hook. And I don't think my opponent can bingo through this E. They'll probably be bingoing through this N, which isn't that strong. So I think reorients here. Okay, does this bingo? I'm not sure, but I can probably, it'll bingo with a vowel if it bingos, I'm pretty sure, so I can probably check pretty fast. 10 drons. I know Donner doesn't take an S. I think 10 drons is good through an O. I think that's all I have for 8 options. So we know Vimin does not take an S. That's really helpful for evaluating the shape of the board. We don't have to be afraid of hooks here, which could possibly be, you know, double doubles, but more to the point could score bingo and open, you know, especially over here, open a new lane. I'm pretty sure reorient does not take the P in the back, or in the front rather. Or in the back, you know, it doesn't take it anywhere. And I doubt I'm going to get it, but I do have tenders here for 32, and probably other things. Denets, slightly better. Anagram of Stend. I'm expecting a bingo to go down here fairly soon, whether it be Ripianos or Peonies somewhere else, or whatever there is through that T, positive or whatever. So whatever options, you know, I see right now, through, especially through this E, which are the better ones, certainly in terms of scoring, are unlikely to go down. But my opponent plays Peonies here, which is interesting. And so those options through this E do stay available. And I also have some options over here. This has probably got to be the best, actually. Yeah, this has got to be the best. Like, I can't overlap anything bigger, and I'm more worried about this area than this one. Yeah, this is just there, and I'm starting it low on time, but there's no reason to look any further than Drent. It's gonna score a little bit more than Trend. Okay, so this is a fun word if I get an S, sannyasi. Through an S. There are two other S's unseen in a blank, so it's certainly possible I could get an S. Not super likely because the best bingo lane ends with an S. It could end with an A, but almost certainly ends in an S. When I say best, the most likely bingo lane. These are better lanes, but this is the most likely one for my opponent. So I'm not really counting on sannyasi at all, but I will, you know, keep that in mind in case it does show up. Good equity plays here. Nay is a pretty solid one. Keeps the ideal rack leave from this, which is AINS, and scores. If I don't end up having to think too much about board shape, I'll probably just plop that down. I don't think I have any double doubles through this E this turn. And if I did, they'd probably use that S and probably wouldn't be as good as Nay. This turn, I'm really more concerned. The Drent turn, I was not as concerned about using that S because I did not have a vowel consonant balance at all, and so I'm just adjusting my my mic tripod here for a second. So I wasn't concerned about spending that S to get a better vowel consonant balance, especially with it not being that strong on this board with Vimin not taking an S. This turn I would be willing to spend it, I'm just not sure where I would. So this takes out Nay, my opponent plays in that spot. I'm up by 6, so I have tempo. I pretty much have control over the board. I can do whatever I want to do with the board. I'm not quite sure what I want to do with the board, with having been drawing these weird racks and frankly getting outdrawn a little bit. Some options, Rainy. Really mediocre. Would be the play to make if I were down, though, because it kind of forks this board, leaving this spot and this spot. As I said, A and Y is ideally what I would play, but I'm not any in Nay. Oh, this is a decent spot for Nay. If, you know, Vimin blocking this makes it a lot less defensively dangerous than it otherwise would be. It still isn't great defensively, though. Yin is another option. Good equity play. Should I be worried about this square? I don't know. There's Fs, which will play for like 30. I play like FAIX. No, wait, that doesn't work. Play with Z, like, oh, like Fizz could go down, I guess. Is Izar, yeah, it's more possible than I'd like it to be to use that Z there after Yin, when this really isn't scary at all right now. I don't want to make it scary. On the other hand, this E especially, and all these bingos in general are a little scary. So, kind of going back to Nay, I'm not really sure. This can be underlapped a bit, but it's kind of awkward to do. And I'm likely to get counterplay. So I'm just going to look for a little while and see if I see anything better, because I really don't want to do that. Rainy here is interesting. Scores a little bit better than that other spot. I don't want to be doing this to that, though. I really don't. Tinny here, keeping AAS. I don't really want to keep AAS. I could just play Ya here. Keep Nanes. That's not the ideal keep here, but it does what I want to do defensively. Doesn't give those overlap opportunities back. I think I'll play this. Oh, and I luck box into nations, though it might not be a luck box. Because that's just about the worst bingo ever, and I might not even get it down. Like, it's just like, it scores only 63 points. It opens a triple lane. It opens a lane to an S. Yeah, and my opponent has played in that spot anyway with Behowls, which I'm pretty sure is good. I might check it. I'm not sure. Does it give me a bingo back? I don't think it does. I'm not too certain if Behowls. It looks like a word, but again, 5 point, and it would help me a lot. Because if I played nations, I mean, there's not much. Opponent could score back, but I wouldn't exactly be giving my opponent, you know, a great response if it came off. I really don't think it's going to come off, though. But I'm going to check it anyway. Yeah, it's good. Okay. So what I want to do here probably is overlap. In the 8, starting, I'd have to start with A or O. And it's awkward to do that. I'm probably not going to have anything longer than this. I could try and do something, because I'm down now, I could try and do something less defensive, like this, or this. But even those plays are not very helpful in terms of offense. So I think I'll just take the equity play with ons. I'm not down by very much now anyway. I can totally come back from 31 in tempo. I would not necessarily even need a bingo. However, this board is pretty close to bingo, so I may be shifting gears in terms of I'm not going to be looking every turn for 8s. I'm more likely to be looking for scoring spots. Some words on this rack. Guga, Seguin. Ungag? I think so. Aging. Gung. Wonder if I have a double-double. I probably don't. I'm not seeing one yet. Unfortunately, I may have blocked the board too well. There's very few spots in my opponent's played in. Probably the best one. I may have to make a play to open. Raging takes an S. I do have the last case S. There is a blank out. Downside of making this play is just that I keep a U back. Ruing is better in terms of equity, but it's just not. It's not giving me as many lanes. It's easier to block. I'm not too sure that it takes an S. I'm starting to get low on time again. I haven't done this in a while, so not too surprising. But that all just means that I need to go ahead and play Raging. Not really what I wanted to see, but there are options. Now there's this. Could try and figure out a way to open another lane. That doesn't really do that. This is okay. It's not great, but it's okay, and it races me to actually having a decent play on that O column. This gives me strafed. Can't really rely or expect to get that. Looking to see if I have another bingo through Raging. I don't think I do. Fad could go here, but that doesn't open another lane, so it's not really what I want to do. This does, so it might be competitive. Depends on how much my opponent scores if they block. And my opponent makes what happens, unfortunately, to be a completely ineffective block. Unless I'm somehow wrong that Raging's is good. Gringa's Sergang Raging's. I'm pretty sure that's what that is. What's this 6 here? Kafila, I think. And facial. Not seeing a great spot for either of those right now. Kafila plays here, I guess. I was thinking more along the lines of playing here, which I can do with Pilaf, but that is not good defensively. It's inferior to something like FAP. So this game is now close again. I now have I'm trailing by 4 points, but I have tempo. However, what my opponents just played, if they have the Y or the last O, but especially the Y, and can do a parallel here, then they may have got me. If they can bingo through this I, which is going to be a little tricky, but certainly possible, then they've got me. I'd love to make a play down here that would stop at least the first possibility completely in its tracks. FAPA really doesn't do that. I'd like it to be a little bit longer of a word. However, I'd certainly rather play it than Pilaf, because Pilaf just opens another spot. This is okay, I think. It doesn't completely limit this spot, but it means that if my opponent wants to use it, then they have to spend they have to go over to the 15 column, pretty much, and that gives me counterplay. I wound up getting this Y. I don't know if I'll end up caching it, because I also have to worry about blocking this I now. Not really sure how I'm going to do that. Probably not able to do it over here. I hope I have something better than Fikey. That's awful. Oh, I have KV. Still not great. Now, if my opponent does bingo, then I have a dilemma, because Yuck's going to be over here. It's almost certainly going to stay the best equity play. But, oh, this is funny. My opponent actually blocked Yuck. So I don't really have much of a dilemma. I have to block this spot. There's no other spot. I just got to figure out how to do it. And since I'm running out of time, I'll probably just play KV. KV isn't great because there's 0-1 plays. And I know my opponent can probably score 30-something with this S. Or I'm assuming with a blank, rather. I'm assuming my opponent has the blank at this point. Otherwise, they'd probably have just dumped O instead of OE. They're trying to set up that blank S. And if my opponent scores over here and then has the blank S, then I'm not sure I can score enough. I'd love to have an H or something for Chi here, but that's not happening. There aren't any. I do have this for 32, which is okay. It has the downside of giving another S spot right here. A play like Jest at 12A could be devastating if I don't keep tiles that can play to there. So it may actually make me keep different tiles if I play Shu. I may. Is there anything that I can... Anyway, I also have Wakeful, which I'm pretty sure... Yeah, it's a word, but I'm very unlikely to get the spot. I say that, and then I get the spot. I could totally get my butt bingoed on right now, but it doesn't even matter. Like, this is so clearly the correct thing to do. Because the L is the only tile that I have that goes here. I could play something like Kale and block, but that wouldn't even be a complete block. I don't think I have a complete block. No, I don't, because every tile that I have, you can put something to the right of it. And Leah takes an I in front, so I can't just play down with something like Lek. So I can't make a complete block of that. So I just have to score 72, let my opponent score 85 or whatever they're going to score. And then I'm probably going to still win anyway. Unfortunately, it does mean I have the J and Q. So If I just dump jail, is that enough to win? They can't hook jail. The bingo would be decidual or something like that. Caudal wouldn't score as much. How much would decidual be? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 26, 76, I think. And then the dog would get 96. Yeah, the dog that I would not win after that, I don't believe. Well, can I stop my opponent from bingoing? I may be able to. Decidua does go down here. Ute, you can... Well, actually, I was thinking that you could probably bingo through this E, but that might not be the case. Audience is a thing. Idacule is a thing. Decidui is a thing, but none of them go down. Unfortunately, I might get stuck with a bunch of things now, but I mean, I can't just let my opponent bingo because I'm not going to score enough to win. I'll probably be fine, though. I can get rid of this J. I may not be able to get rid of the Q, but... This is a big enough lead that unless my opponent can figure out a way to bingo, which is possible, there might be like a 10 through net or a 9 through this TI, or some obvious spot that I've missed. But in the absence of a bingo, I think that I'm going to have enough points here. I'm not sure if my opponent had a bingo when they played Ale. It was a really clever play. But I'm not sure if it would have been better to just take the bingo. I guess if they had, then I wouldn't have gotten all this crap, though. Or no, I had all this crap anyway. Sorry. I had all this crap anyway after Wakeful, and that was my reward for Wakeful. I think I am Q stuck. I'm just assuming my opponent will probably be back. If they don't, at this point, I'm pretty sure that I've won the game, so I'll upload it anyway. Okay, they're back. Yeah, I'm probably Q stuck already, but that's only 20 points by itself. To catch up, my opponent... This is not a word. My opponent would have to, like, make setups and stuff. And that's not happening because my opponent just gave me 30 free points. Oh, I just realized male takes an E. I think my opponent can... I should have played Rem because I think my opponent can probably bingo now, but they won't have enough points. What would it have been? Yeah. CDIU. Let's see, Decuria. Maybe they couldn't have. Either way, I probably should have thought before playing male. I'll just dump this J. But yeah, even if there was a bingo there, it would not have been enough to win after I got gifted those 30 points. I didn't play Rem just because I didn't want to because my opponent might have tried to like dink me with one tile plays to maximize value of the queue, and to guard against that, if it's not going to lose you the game to do so, it's better to keep a couple tiles back just to like, even if it's, I mean, rule of thumb, like you can work out the details if you have time, but obviously I don't. But, you know, as a general rule of thumb, if you're going to get stuck with a tile, then you probably want to play your other tiles off fairly slowly. Even if your opponent does, you know, what you've made the correct thing, and plays out, you're going to lose a couple points. But if you don't do that, then your opponent can dink you and probably take more points off you that way. Then, because I mean they could still play out either way, but then it wouldn't be correct to do so. Again, as a general rule of thumb. My opponent does have outplays. They have aid in mail, for one thing. They have drained this Ned. I'm sure my opponent has probably seen at least one thing. If nothing else, aids and OES. You can't NICAD over here. You can't count on it. Sometimes people miss things fairly inexplicably in endgames, but with so many options, it's most likely that my opponent has seen at least one of them, and they're just trying to find the best one. They could also be considering dinking me with one tile plays. I don't think that that would be the correct thing to do at this point, because many of the outplays score like 20, and dinking wouldn't score that much more. I have the new word Shen. I have, you know, I have places to put these tiles that aren't horrible. Yeah, I could do like Ray Dre or Day Date or something like that. And that might be slightly better than playing out. It's not going to matter either way. I've clearly won this game, and whatever my opponent does is not going to make a difference by more than a few points. And there's some people who would be slightly tilted by opponents spending so much time on an endgame in a completely lost game for them, but I don't mind. I often spend some time myself, not necessarily my whole clock time, but a few minutes just to check on spread and practice and just make sure I don't embarrass myself. And besides which, given how this has gone, my opponent may have disconnected. Heck, I may have disconnected. Who knows? Might as well check. One way you can check is by, you know, using the finger command on yourself or somebody else. There's other ways. You can check who's observing the game. List doesn't, because you can. I'm pretty sure you can get list even if you're disconnected. Or pool. I think you can get that even if you're disconnected too. I'll have to test that. But I think those are local. But yeah, oftentimes ISC will, once you're, even if you're disconnected, ISC won't necessarily know. I think it only kind of pings back like once every minute or two. So oftentimes you can sit there not being connected to ISC and have no idea. And so if an opponent is just taken forever, it's often the case that they're disconnected and ISC doesn't know yet. But it's worth checking, especially when you're low on time, to make sure that it's not you. Because if it is you, then once you get reconnected, you may show back up and immediately forfeit on time, which is an awful way to lose a game. Not fun at all. And there's not much your opponent can necessarily do about it. Could adjourn, but if you don't know that's going to happen, and usually neither player really knows that's going to happen. You know, when it does, you just resume and it just happens immediately. You know, I've tried. I think it usually shows like 1 second on your clock or something. I'm not sure that's real. I've tried playing in that situation, and I'm pretty sure that second doesn't actually exist and that you just actually forfeit on time immediately. Because in a normal game, when I have normal 1 second left on my clock, I can usually make it play real fast if I know what I'm going to if I'm going to know what I'm going to play. I think it just shows 1 second because it can't show 0. Unless it's actually game over or whatever. I don't know exactly how it's programmed. Again, I think my opponent's just practicing their endgame, but because I'm low on time, I will continue checking. And also checking my broadcast to make sure that it's still recording. So it's getting a little dull, but mentioned I'm playing in a tournament this weekend, Atlanta, directed by my friend Joey Kravchuk. It's kind of too late, unfortunately, to join. I think you would have already had to postmark your entry. It's unfortunate that I can't really use this as a recruiting video for this tournament. But Joey directs a lot of tournaments, and he's a good director, a good guy, and I definitely recommend. You know, I like what he's been doing for the scene. Him and Ryan Fisher have been doing great things for the Scrabble scene in the Southeast in the last few years, and it's unfortunate that I haven't been able to go to a lot of their tournaments. You know, just for financial problems and other reasons, but you know, they're really sort of. And they both have a tendency, not always, but Ryan certainly does, and this time Joey is, and has in the past, to offer CSW divisions. Which the demand in the Southeast, it tends to be the same few people, but you know, it is pretty good to at least have a scene here at all. And you know, that doesn't just happen for no reason. You know, there can only be a scene if there are directors to make it happen. And so I'm definitely appreciative. If my opponent, for whatever reason, plays something that leaves one tile, I probably want to play both the R and the N off. Something like Robin could do it. I don't think that's a thing. Ran, of course, but that doesn't score enough to make it worth playing. Didn't score as much as Shen, -2. My opponent might just forfeit on time. Yeah, looks like that's what's going to happen. Anyway, now we can see what I missed. Likely a fairly substantial amount. I was a little bit tired at the beginning of the game. Fortunately, I think I kind of got into form by the end. This game, they just want Tone. I think Examiner 1 is still dead. I'll check. Yep, much like Francisco Franco, Examiner 1 is still dead, although, unlike Francisco Franco, it's come back to life a couple times. Oh yeah, in tone is a thing that I had on my rack, but it's just not very good. I think where it plays is like here, and it's just not. Has a lot of the same downsides as Emotion, in addition to making this Moit hook, which you don't have the T4 anymore. I'm pretty happy with Vimin. Oh, I did have a 9. It's actually one I knew. Remontoire. I use new loosely. I have seen it. I studied it a couple of years ago. I haven't had the chance to review that set of 9s, and I may or may not end up doing so before Atlanta. I mean, they're really not that important, but they're a lot of fun. In this case, it really would not have been any better. In fact, it would have been worse. Remontoire would have given my opponent Pineys for more points, hooking Remontoires. So, yeah. Cool, but not very practical in this position. My opponent could have scored a little bit more with Sino P here. Played a little bit cagier, didn't want to give back that triple, was taking the lead, though he was down, or they were down on tempo, but wound up just giving me Drent back. Most of the things that I considered are up here are things that I considered. I did also have Inanity, which I did not consider. It's interesting. I think after Ba, I'm not really feeling making these extra lands. I'd rather close them. And this was Bihal's obviously best. I could have played Anon here. 9 more points than Ains, keeping ISS. I don't think that I like doing that. I probably should have seen it. I played a little fast that turn, but I don't think I like doing that because these S's are just not great on this board. I mean, the S is a good bingo tail even by itself, and so even in the absence of S hooks, it's nice to keep it, but keeping 2 on a board like this is just asking for trouble. Hold on, I think my opponent might have a. Well, I know they have had Livier here for 56. They might have had a 9 too. No, they don't. Just Livier for 56. I did not see that. Here actually Ragings is the play that they like for equity, although I don't know if equity-wise it's better than Anguishes, which I apparently had. It would have been a neat play, but Raging was neater because it set up Ragings and that S, and I was the person most likely to use it. And my opponent bailed me out again here by missing Viralize. Oh, Rivalize also, yeah. Viralize, Rivalize is a set. There were other options like Aorta in the same spot. Atua, I think Auto's fine. Bad block, gave me strafed. This turn, 5J, I had FAP here. That's correct. I did have that. I had looked at that spot in previous turns. I didn't this time, but there's a reason for that, and that's that I was more concerned about this lane and this hotspot especially than bingos through this eye, which were a little tricky to hit and would always give me counterplay of some sort, either by virtue of this 2J triple letter score to the double, or more likely by virtue of opening a triple lane. So I'm happy with Lipa here. I'm looking to see what other options there were. Alif doesn't go all the way. Pikal goes to the 15 column, which isn't good. Oxic is a new word that would have blocked pretty spectacularly effectively just about everything here. However, I really don't like the leave at all. I'd rather keep a calf after Lipa than AAFLP, whatever the heck that is, you know. Which doesn't even score over here. Like, Pilaf only goes down here for no points. So yeah, in this rack, yeah, I correctly identified rjud as having the blank here. You know, pay attention to reading, folks. That's fundamental. Reading your opponent's rack. As I said, if they didn't have that blank, they would have just plunked this O down here and not risked me having the blank myself and playing and hooking it for OES for a 30-something point cheat play. Potentially even more, but pretty much guaranteed 30 points in the endgame. In this position, basically tied, there is no way that you would want to do that. Here's KV. There's no way I'm playing 13 AQ here. That's just silly. And it doesn't look like I had a better block than KV. Here I just drew Wakeful for some reason. My opponent missed the tricky icicle. I was wondering if Wakefully would be a thing. When I played it, I didn't mention that. Could have happened, wasn't a good idea. The bingo on this rack that does jump out to me but wasn't playable was, and I have no hide, I'm not quite sure how you pronounce it, Kaylee or something. The Irish people are probably laughing at me. But that, I think the plural of it was famously missed at a major tournament recently. I won't call out who did it. But yeah, I mean, if you hadn't known it before, if you were watching that, you'd know it by the end, because there was a lot of discussion. So, play the tricky ale. This is going to be useless right now because Examiner 1's not on, and even Examiner 1 might not properly figure this out, although since there's no tiles in the bag, probably could at least find the ideal sequence. My opponent did not, in fact, have a bingo after Ute. All their plays, I was expecting something like dices. There are better things you can play, Acider being the best. Well, I don't know for sure if it's better because it does spend one more tile. But yeah, I was expecting something over here. Either that or a dink to block my J, but it's kind of close whether that's actually worth it. It would be giving me the 30 points or 33 points back over here. Because if my opponent played a tile, I would have probably spent that R, I guess. No, I don't know. And yeah, still no bangs. Oh, I did have another spot for that J. Jan and Tune. Yeah, I did have that. Not as good because it does give my opponent cheap jaw ag, but that is the thing. Okay, and so that's it. Went a little long. Was probably pretty boring at the end, but you know, I'm glad that. First of all, I'm glad that I won because I hadn't been winning a whole lot on this channel. I was beginning to wonder if I'd cursed it somehow. But also just kind of great to be back doing this, especially with the tournament coming up. It's really great, hearing from all y'all. Every so often I have somebody, whether it be a tournament player or just a player who follows me on ISC, plays me on ISC, just telling me how much they like my channel and telling me they're fans of it, and that's really cool to see. I haven't really done anything like this before. I've had blogs and things like that, which were followed by, players in the same Scrabble community that I was part of, mostly in North America. And if I'd make a friend, it would just be through regular making friends channels, talking to them on ISC or whatever. But this channel's kind of got passed around, I guess, and that's really cool to see. I hope it continues to find success. I hope that my analysis continues to be beneficial for y'all. But I know what's also beneficial is that these videos don't last too long, so I'm going to wrap this up. Thanks for watching, and I will see you sometime soon.